That's what we like to see. Get in. Hello and welcome to the Stacey West EFL Fantasy League podcast video thing, the show that we enjoy making more than you enjoy watching. And I specifically enjoyed making this week because after going 3-0 down, and to be fair, it would have been 5-0 after being a terrible, terrible start to the season. Like Lazarus, he has risen like a phoenix from the flames. Third this week in the whole Stacey West League with 111 points. This guy.
Yeah, congratulations.
Chris is here as well.
Yeah, hi. Yeah, I don't know what else to say other than reluctant congratulations, really, because it was 111 points is one hell of a haul. I wasn't too disappointed with my score, in all honesty, especially considering a few of the nuances that happened that we'll touch on. So for you to go above and beyond that by quite a margin, fair play. Pulled it back to 3-3, but pressure is well and truly on. We've lost a little bit of confidence over at Substandard Liège, I have to say. The boat has been rocked somewhat. We need a positive result this weekend just to settle us down and settle the nerves a little bit. It's not going well.
With Cole and I have slipped in to the top half of the Stacey West table. So from literally being bottom, bar you 2 games behind, I'm now 45th out of 90. 45th out of 90. I've got Mr. Ben Ward in my sights. At one point on Tuesday evening, I went above Ben. And then there was a catastrophe of little things that went on, which cost me points. At one point, I was on 115 points, which would have been absolutely phenomenal score. These double game weeks, I do enjoy them, but they can leave you a little bit exposed, as we will see when we go through our teams. So shall we crack straight on and have a look at this week's winning team with Call and I? Now, it's a little bit different. I'm going to have to lean to one side. Now, the remarkable thing about this is 111 game week points, which is more than a quarter of my total. So absolutely phenomenal from me, dare I say. Cleworth was injured on Tuesday and didn't play. And Jody Jones, my striker, didn't kick a ball for the whole weekend. So I'd lost, actually, of the potential 14 scoring players, I'd lost 3. If I had picked Josh Madger, and I know football's all about if, buts and maybes, but if I'd gone with Josh Madger as I thought I was going to instead of Jody Jones, I would have been probably top of the entire country for a guess. And that might be an exaggeration, but it's also very likely. So to take you through it, we have Mr. Meslier at Leeds, 9 points, reasonable haul. It's the back 3, and I've seen your team, and I know now where greatness goes. Mr. Lamming has to reluctantly follow eventually, because that back 3, as picked up from Dean, our guest, was masterful for us. I mean, imagine if Cleworth had played. Big old Pordy, 24 points with the captain. Wish I'd captain Will Amerson, but 19 points from him. Josh Brownell bagged the penalty for Burnley as well. There was plenty of points for Birmingham and Notts County. Now, I'm stopping back in Notts County players. Every time I back Jody Jones, he hasn't played. Every time I back Dan Crowley, he hasn't played or he's come off. Every time I don't back them, they do really well. So I am binning off Notts County players full stop. But that, ladies and gentlemen, just savour it, suck it in, have a good look. That's what a really good fantasy football team looks like in game week 8. We'll just have a moment's silence, shall we, just to appreciate that. Now, Substandard Liège, very substandard this week. Not quite managing. First of all, any comments on my team?
No.
Okay, that's brilliant. So after that fantastic insight, we'll go over to Substandard Liège.
So disappointing. Firstly, after me going kind of in quite hard on the reasoning why I selected Mr. Dauphin from Rotherham, a lot of time and effort went into that selection. A lot of, I thought I'd really kind of cheated the system a little bit there. Didn't play neither game. So that's karma, isn't it? Didn't help at all. Bradford being crap didn't help either. Only a 3-point haul. You know, the aim for the teams at the bottom was to pick 2 sides that had really good chances of picking up back-to-back wins, really. That was the hope. And to only get a solitary point from their 2 games against 2 beatable League 2 sides was incredibly disappointing. Nick Townsend, the goalkeeper who had made the most saves so far in League Two, hardly had a save to make, despite and let more than one goal in. So that didn't score highly. Pordy, of course, we shared. I was pleased to have picked Mr. Doughty. I've picked him a few times this season, and he did get a good haul this weekend, despite Luton's indifferent results. The results don't make a huge difference for the individual players, but he performed well in both interceptions and chances created. So that was useful. And Dion Charles, thankfully, coming on as a substitute and scoring on Tuesday night, because he hadn't started the game, which really worried me. I thought I was going to be even further behind. But to be honest, if you'd said you can get 95 points over this game week, would you take that? I think I'd have probably said, yeah, I think that would be a decent haul. So as much as there are some things that I wish I had done differently, just picked a better defender and tried rather than trying to be smart with Odofin. But I'm not too disappointed with the overall score. I'm just disappointed with the result against you, because you had a great week. And like I said at the start, credit where it's due. But I'm not going to send any more congratulations your way. Now, you've had it, favourite. That's it.
I'm usually rubbish at fantasy football, and I am still a kiss of death. What I find really interesting, actually, about your team is 95 points, nothing for Odofin. So if you'd had just a bog standard defender in there scoring 7 or 8 points, Nick Townsend scores fairly low as well, on 4 for a double game week. Mm-hmm. And Thomason scored for Bolton, and he's only got an 8 across 2 games. So it just show you, I think there's a misconception with fantasy league sometimes that you look for players who, oh, he's going to score, he's a defender and he's going to score. Whereas actually defenders are scoring points for blocks and tackles, as with Pordy O'Connor and Will Emerson, who have been, I've picked them a couple of games in a row now. So, and as I say, where greatness goes, I understand you probably follow this week. So shall we have a look how that transpired, how that looked, first of all, on game week 8. So game week 8 on the Stacey West, there we go, 111, joint second, actually. Mr. Leffler, friend of the pod there, 4th. So that's a really good finish for him. Kind of just scrolling back down. Now, EFL Fantasy Josh, he's going to be coming on the show at some point soon. He's a good way up the division alongside wife Amy. I think they take 2 of the top spots in the overall table. So he's had a really good week as well. Carl Beach joined late, but he had a good week. There's Ben on 95, you on 95. I mean, there's a lot of people who got really decent scores there. Carl Mercer, 91. So plenty of 90s. And I think it's as you go further down, you can begin to see the people that perhaps are not quite picking their team. Maybe in the 70s, they've picked it. But when you go all the way down to the bottom 10, you have to wonder if Mr. Beeston, definitely losing, is actually picking his team, because it looks the same every week. Ben House was injured. Jordan Rhodes isn't playing. I mean, he's pull your finger out, Charlie. You're meant to be keeping up appearances here, isn't he?
Yeah, poor form by Mr. Beeson there, I have to say.
And Stu Wells as well. Look, Stu not really picking. I wonder what will happen when they've picked, if they leave it and they run out of goes to pick their teams, because you can only pick a team 5 times a season. I wonder if then it'll just drop off and they won't even score.
That's a very good point. I haven't thought about that particular rule. We shall see. The thing is, by then they will be way back in our mirrors, won't they? There'll be no worries to us at all.
Now we're going to look ahead to this week, but first of all, you were going to take us through some of the highest performing players of the week, potentially.
Yes. So I haven't got a screenshot or anything for this, but I will talk you through these. So we're just going to go through the highest performing players from each position. So this might influence picks for coming weeks for people that are watching. So the highest performing goalkeeper from the previous week was Christy Pym with 23 points, which is some haul there. Also with 23 points, the highest performing defender, Caden Hughes of Fleetwood Town. The highest performing midfielder this week, again on 23 points, was Hayden Hackney of Middlesbrough. Honourable mention to former imp Matty Virtue in second place there for Peterborough. For Fleetwood, sorry. And then the highest scoring forward. No points for guessing this one if anyone's kind of been keeping up with the scores this week is Tom Cannon with 29 points off the back of his 4-goal haul on Wednesday evening. I can't imagine many people had selected Tom Cannon. Just 0.2% of people had selected him this week. So that's not many, but that means that someone has. And I wonder if there was a cheeky little Stoke City supporter that maybe captained him this week. I wonder if there's a way of finding that out. But yeah, that would have been a hell of a haul. 58 points if you'd captained Tom Cannon this week off the back of his 4 goals.
Unbelievable. That's a nice new feature, isn't it? Let us know what you think. Maybe next time I might even prepare the tickers properly, but we do want to make this show watchable. I mean, 80 odd people watched last week, which actually I think for a fantasy league football niche is still quite impressive. We are looking at having guests. Obviously, there's been talk of Josh coming on. We're definitely going to get Dean back on. If there's anybody who watches this who wants to come on and just talk their team or talk tactics or what I'm going to say in a minute, watch Chris get caught out because it is coming up and he doesn't realise it yet. You've walked into a little bit of a trap, but you'll see what. Oh no! The look on your face.
What have I done?
It's like that. It's like that time at Christmas where I saved the football shirt-sized package when I was 15 to the last present because I was convinced I'd been bought a Lincoln shirt, and when I opened it, it was an awful cream cardigan I never wore. It was that look on my face. You've done something that if you had looked at the YouTube comments,
which I haven't.
Yeah, you haven't. You wouldn't have done. Do you want to know what it is?
Yeah, I have. You can't leave me hanging like that.
So these are our teams for this week. And there's a star in the top corner there.
Indeed.
What's the star for, Chris?
I have used my... I forgot what it's called now. Is it called Super Captain or something? Max Captain chips. The Max Captain chip. So what that does is you get 2 of those a season, I believe. And what happens is automatically the highest scoring player will be given the captaincy for the week. So you don't select a captain as such. The highest scoring player automatically gets their points doubled.
They do. And that's good to use on I mean, people
tend
to share it for a double
what an idiot.
Week,
you'd save it for a 2-game week.
It's going to get it's going to get worse for you in a minute. Because game week 21, Chris, is a triple game week. It's over Christmas. 3 games in 7 days.
Well, I'm going to have to accept defeat on that week, aren't I? No matter what. I might pick Harrogate and Shrewsbury as my 2 teams. I might, just throw the towel in that week to make sure I don't use them again. So I save my selections. I don't get them used up. What an idiot. I have to say, because obviously we're recording a day later than we have done previously this week because it was a 2-game week. What that meant, though, is that because there were some matches on Wednesday, the game week hadn't finished by the time we would normally record this on a Wednesday evening. So we couldn't pick our teams for the coming week. Today, in all honesty, has been quite a rush. So of all the weeks we've been doing this week was the least time I've been able to put into selecting my teams. And of course, that was a bit of an oversight. The reason I picked the Max Captainship is because I couldn't decide on the captain. I actually thought I was quite happy with some of these picks and thought there's a good chance there's going to be some relatively high scores here. I don't want to miss out. So I'll max captain my chip this week. But also partly, you pulled it back to 3-3. We need a confidence boost. So if any little marginal gain I can get, it's probably worth it. Hopefully now what will happen is I'll go on a little bit of a run and I'll have at least a 2-point lead by the time Christmas comes around. You'll win that week, but I'll still be a point ahead. That's what I'm going to go for now after learning.
You panicked.
Yes.
You panicked,
yes.
Basically.
Yes, absolutely.
So eagle-eyed viewers may be looking at my team going, who's Jay Smith in goal? Which is exactly what I did when I put the thing together. Now, I'm not sure who I selected there, but Huddersfield away, I'm not sure. Is it Barnsley are at Huddersfield? And we don't think they've got a goalkeeper called Jay Smith?
Certainly not they don't have a goalkeeper called Jay Smith available to select on the game. No.
And when I went into it on my phone, it suddenly changed to the Grimsby Town goalkeeper, who we know to be Jay Wright, Jordan. So I'm not quite sure what happened there. So when we go through, I have actually changed my goalkeeper, but it's not a breach of the rules. It was discussed before we went on air. And the reason that we haven't changed the graphic for it is because we're hard pushed for time, basically. So
Yeah, that's the only reason.
we'll go through our teams goalie by goalie, formation by formation. But first of all, I've noticed that you have now not only gone with my formation from the last couple of weeks, but also my 2 star players as well.
The players was nothing to do with you. The formation was a realization of the rules. And yeah, of course, I was well aware that I'd lost this week by Tuesday evening, because even though the match week hadn't finished, all of our games had. So we knew that was game over from my perspective. I was like, right, I really need to double, triple, quadruple check the rules. What am I missing here? How can I get forward with this? And what I realized, again, should have learned this right from the off. Maybe it's a little bit in the back of my mind relating to previous fantasy football rules that's still lingering there. As much as I completely understood that busy defenders tend to score well, goals conceded doesn't really go very well. But actually, defenders only lose points, and goalkeepers as well, for every 2 goals conceded. So to lose a point for every 2 goals conceded, but you're making 3 saves in that game, then that's already kind of cancelled it out, if not a positive. So yeah, I have subscribed to the fact that all players score points through scoring goals. Forwards only score points through scoring goals and key passes, which you don't expect forwards to have many of. Midfielders score points for key passes and interceptions, and scoring goals, of course, as everyone does, and assists, but less likely. But defenders can score points for scoring goals, getting assists, tackles, clearances, and clean sheets. So, yeah, you're right. I'm late to the party. It's quite likely I'm probably going to keep the 3-2-1 formation now until the end of the season, unless there's any particular weeks where I see a certain player that needs to go in the midfield, maybe, or up front. But yeah, I think the big talking point is I am copying you in terms of formation. So yeah, fair enough.
And to be fair, I did copy Dean. So look, Will Aimson and Paulie O'Connor. I mean, Will Aimson now, this will be his 3rd week in a row that I picked him. And every time I've had a good, well-scoring player where I've dropped, he's gone on, and I've gone on to regret it. So I'm not regretting that. I don't care who he's playing. It's not a bother to me. It's the same with Paulie O'Connor. There's nothing behind those at all. And Mickey Demetriou, just to clarify as well, it's just a high-scoring defender who's done really well. If Cleworth hadn't been injured, I would have stuck with him again this week, but he is, so I've taken him out. Your 3rd defender there is
Ben Jackson from Barrow. Good scorer and defender for tackles, to be honest. And you don't see many defenders that score highly for tackles and takes set pieces. Barrow this week are playing against Cheltenham, who have had an indifferent season so far. Did win their most recent match, but that was 2-1 versus Accrington, who are dead last. I've just been a bit unconvinced by Cheltenham so far this season. Have conceded 2 goals in 3 of the last 5 games. So I felt that Barrow, who are performing well overall, Jackson, who seems to be a relatively busy defender and also has set piece threat from deliveries, I thought was an interesting choice, because I couldn't really find another defender that I was really sold on, but I absolutely wanted to subscribe to picking an extra defender this week. Just quickly on Aimson and O'Connor, I appreciate we've both picked them, but as the first one I picked Will Aimson. It wasn't for copying you, but it was the fact that Wigan haven't conceded a goal in 5 games. So I think a clean sheet, albeit against a strong Stockport side, is likely. Certainly, I can't see them conceding 2 goals against Stockport. Wigan have only conceded 2 goals twice this season, and like I said, 0 in the last 5. Yeah, Aimson has scored really highly for clearances, so I think he's a defender that tends to attack the ball more regularly, so scores highly for that. And also, touching on goalkeeper, I've picked Wigan's goalkeeper Sam Tickle in goal for the same reason, really, in that he tends to score relatively highly for saves, but is likely to concede 1s and 0s as well. So I think he's a reasonable shout. And then Paulie, of course, we're playing against Leyton Orient. Leyton Orient have created the 3rd least in regards to expected goals this season. Goal scoring has been a real challenge for Leyton Orient. Keeping teams out has been a real strength of Lincoln City. And Pordy, again, playing in that central of the three, tends to be the most dominant in regards to clearances. And of course, we know he's a set piece threat as well at the other end of the pitch. So that's the justification for my three.
My goalkeeper was Anthony Patterson. Twofold, really. One, I wanted some interest in the Friday games. It's blatantly, I'm really going quite into this now, and I like being able to keep an eye, or I like having to keep an eye on the other games and see how they're doing. And I've just been keep doing a bit on Sunderland and Leeds today for a different website, and I just fancy it to be the sort of game where the goalkeepers are both going to be worked. Sunderland probably favourites because they're at home. And Patterson scored really highly all season. Now, in the midfield, I think we have both been influenced by what we watched on Tuesday night a little bit. So we'll talk about that first of all. So we've both picked Lee Evans. Now, Blackpool are away, I think, at Mansfield this weekend. Now, I've done another article today that suggests that Mansfield are massively overachieving because they have had statistically the easiest start in terms of the teams that they've played. I think they've played something like 4 of the bottom 6 already. Blackpool are on a really good run. I think they look like a decent side, and an awful lot went through Evans, and that means key passes. He also gets really, I noticed him getting stuck in. He was in the middle of all the tackles, etc. That means interceptions. My one question mark over Evans, and I'm so pleased you've picked him because it does negate it a little bit, is that he was injured the game before us and he was targeted by a couple of tackles. And I just wondered if he might be a doubt. And the fact that you've picked him means that if he is a doubt, then we both suffer. So, was that your thinking?
Yeah, I think it's a risk worth taking because he scores so highly. Partly because I was really impressed with him on Tuesday. He's scored highly all season, but I hadn't quite been sold on Blackpool until we played against them because a bit of a new manager bounce. You'd watch clips, you'd seen the highlights, you'd seen the stats. They're clearly improved, but I kind of expected it to tail off. But I still do expect it to tail off, to be honest, at some point. However, Mansfield, despite them being third in the table, do concede quite a lot of chances. They create a lot, but they concede a lot. So you imagine Evans is going to have a little bit of a field day in regard to key passes, as you mentioned. But he also scores highly for interceptions. And because Mansfield are quite gung-ho, and a lot of the play is going to go through that part of the pitch. So again, I expect him to score highly for interceptions. So this one's going to go in with the stats a little bit. It's going with the kind of guaranteed point scorers, or as near to guaranteed point scorers you can get here. So of course, cue him either not playing or 0 key passes, 0 interceptions, and us both having a poor week. But of course, as much as that would impact our score overall in the Stacey West League table, in the most important element for this, of course, which is us versus each other, it would completely cancel each other out. So, yeah, I think I'm actually quite comfortable that we both made that decision there.
Your other midfielder, what's behind that? And bear in mind, we're on 23 minutes.
Yeah, Scott Twine of Bristol City. Bristol City have had an interesting start to the season, inconsistent start to the season. Most recently, 2 losses, a win, followed by 2 draws. Scott Twine has created 3 more big chances than any other player in the Championship. He's created 8 big chances this season, whereas no one else has created more than 5. And they're playing against Cardiff City. Of course, Cardiff City, who won their most recent match versus Millwall, despite a pretty shocking start to the season. But they are rudderless as it stands in terms of managerless. A bit of a local derby, I think, might add a little bit of something to this, though, because Cardiff have performed well in local derbies recently. They won the last one against Swansea and also most recently in the previous fixture against Bristol City as well. But this was a little bit... Cardiff, despite their win, are one of the poorest teams in the Championship. Scott Twine is a bit of an outlier in regarding creating key chances. Whether Bristol City score or not is kind of irrelevant, because if he's creating a chance that someone gets a shot away off the back of, it counts as a key pass. He should score points for that. And he takes set pieces as well. And you imagine in a local derby where there's going to be potentially a little bit of heat in the game, a few tackles flying in, for him to be a bit of an expert at direct free kicks. I thought there might be an opportunity for him to score a direct free kick or 1 or 2 there.
Very good. Well, I've got Aaron Wildig, and I only went on who
again.
Scored. Again, yeah, because I had him once before. takes set pieces, likes to play short passes, commit fouls often. So for me, that says could play key passes, likely to get stuck in and intercept the ball. And he scored 4 goals in 8 games. Playing Bradford City, Bradford generally not a great side. So I have gone here with picking almost like my strongest squad from the first 8 game weeks, bar 1 or 2 players. And that's the reason Josh Madger's come in again. If Josh Madger had played for me this week instead of Jody Jones, I would have been light years ahead at the top of the table. I would have been the best out of 90. So I dropped the ball. It was a mistake on my point. It's like when Pep Guardiola drops the ball a little bit, outstanding, but could have been even better. So I had a word with Josh. We've made up now. He's been putting it in training this week, and he's recalled. And you have also recalled a favourite of yours, even though we didn't start the last game.
Yes. So I looked into
Brave.
this I think it is brave, but I also think it's a calculated risk because Bolton played Shrewsbury. Everyone knows my thoughts on Shrewsbury Town this season. Bolton, they also know my thoughts on Bolton. I think Bolton are resurgent. I think they're a really good side. Had a slow start to the season, bit of a playoff hangover, but we all know that they are good. I still maintain that Bolton were probably better than Derby County last season, and probably deserve to go up automatically in regards to just the quality they showed in all phases of play. Dion Charles, of course, is a big part of that. He's a great goal scorer at this level. Up there for expected goals this season, and has recently started to find the net as well. So he's starting to kind of hit his stride. Playing against Shrewsbury Town, of course, who concede the most or second most in terms of expected goals in League One this season. And he started 2 games ago. Both the front 2 were rested/rotated on Tuesday night, which indicates to me that, and then he came on and scored, which indicates to me that it was an element of squad rotation, resting players, giving minutes to others, managing load, and on the back of a goal coming off the bench, I fully expect him to be back in the starting 11 come Saturday afternoon.
Now, there's no need for us to explain why we've both picked Bolton, because you've just done it. They're a banker. You've obviously gone for the away win Middlesbrough, which I'll come to in a minute, because I think that's a really interesting one. I have decided that bankers in this area, or as close to bankers as possible, is better than risks. So I only had one team, I think, away over the last weekend. The teams have often been what have let me down. I really fancy Fleetwood to beat Bromley. I think Fleetwood are a good side. I think they are challenging at the top end of League Two. They create chances. They've got arguably a League One squad. Obviously, Matty Virtue there scoring a couple of goals at the weekend. I can see them going on a little bit of a run. I think they'll have too much for Bromley. Okay, it's 7 points instead of 10, but I'd rather have 7 in the bag than risk a draw. I also think that they're likely to score a couple of goals, and I saw with Notts County, particularly this weekend, getting the extra goals has really helped give my score a boost. So I am backing Fleetwood Town to pick up a home win, as well as Bolton's absolutely nailed on 100% home win. I was tempted. Tempted to go with Birmingham because they are away at Charlton, and so an away win there. But I'm not so sure. I'm not so sure. I think I'll save Birmingham for when they've got Cambridge and Shrewsbury, when they go into those sorts of places. For now, I've got to try and think a little bit tactically. As you say, you can only pick a team 5 times through a season. I thought, well, that's loads. But actually, when there's 30, 40 game weeks, it's really not. So, yeah, that's why I've gone for Fleetwood.
Yeah,
and
agreed.
by the way, I backed Fleetwood once before, and they let me down away at Morecambe.
Oh.
But yeah. Anyway, sorry, I've cut you off twice there.
No, it's fine. It's so good. That's my fault for putting in. Two points. Firstly, I agree with you on Birmingham. They're going to win the majority of the games this season, so picking wisely as to when you can select them, I think, is important. Again, probably a double game week as a minimum because they're likely to win both games. What's really funny is because we spoke beforehand, but we didn't share each other's squad. You just said to me, we've got 4 of the same picks. And then we realised what those 4 were off air before seeing the actual teams. What's quite funny is that my other potential pick for the match was Fleetwood, but I decided to go away win. I was like, I want to get, if there's what I think, not a banker, but a really good opportunity for an away win, I think those extra points can count for something, but it's not worth the risk after me getting stung by Bradford. Middlesbrough are the team with the highest XG, highest number of touches in the boxes, touching the box, in the Championship. Watford despite some positive results this season, have got the third worst XG against. So if there's ever such thing as the stats or a selection of statistics, rather than just one or two in isolation, but a selection of statistics pointing to an away win, it's this one. Yet there wasn't an outstanding Middlesbrough player that I dared pick, because there's a few good high-performing players, but no one that really stands out as like a guaranteed pick. They're a good team. And yeah, Watford are good individuals, but are really open, and Middlesbrough are good at exploiting that. So I have gone for the
think it's
away
bold.
win.
I think that's really bold. You're talking about a team in 7th winning away at a team in 8th. Both of them have won 4 games. Okay, I get it with the goals, but Middlesbrough have only scored 9 as well, which is as many as QPR, who are 3rd from bottom.
Yeah, but the
I think
underlying
that's
numbers,
bold.
Gaz, underlying numbers suggest there's a big mismatch here, despite the embryonic league table.
But you just said that this is the least amount of time you've put into a team, and you've still come up with that. I think it's a good shout on your triple captain week, or your double chip, because you kind of, if you lose those points, you might steal them back elsewhere from having anybody as your captain. But I think it's a risky one. Having said that, what are we saying then on how confident you feel?
Well, every time I've said I've been confident, I've lost, I think. I don't know. Like I said, there's a low morale in the camp at substandard age at the moment. 3 losses on the bounce doesn't do any positive for any football team, let alone a made-up one. But yeah, I'm really lacking confidence, mate. To be honest, I don't know. I'm relatively pleased with the selections, but I've said that in the last 2 or 3 weeks. I'm annoyed that I've used the triple captain. Sorry, the max captain thing. After not taking the time to read the comments, and of course, I was even discussing it. I think saving it for a double/triple game week, and then me just with a little bit of time. But what will also be quite interesting is I probably put 40 minutes into this, and in the previous times I've put at least 90 into it.
What?
Before. Yeah. I've gone through lots of information, often too much, and it's not helped. So what would be quite
too much? I put 8 minutes max into my team this week.
Well, it shows that I'm putting too much time and effort into it, doesn't it? But what would be funny is I put the least amount of time, done the least amount of research, tried to be honest, not as clever, not as smart in finding the little nuances this week as I had in previous weeks. So if I win this week, then that shows that I just need to put less time in.
Well, this week, and we'll have to be really quick now, but this week is literally about several matchups. It's about Sam Tickle and Anthony Patterson, your Barrow boy Jackson against Mickey Demetriou, Scott Twine, Aaron Wildig, Dion Charles, Josh Badger, Fleetwood Middlesbrough. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
And even if I come out on top in slightly more of those, your double captainship gives you the edge. This week, I believe the double captainship will give you the edge. And the fact that we've got 4 of our 9 picks the same, I think it's your week. I do. Which I can.
So.
And then going into the international week, it's going to be really difficult because you can only pick from a certain number. And then after that, we are going to start making it a bit more interesting by working under certain restrictions, we think. Right, very quickly, friend of the show, Dean Gripton, has put together a team for people to have a quick look at, which we think is quite amusing. It's called Keeping Up with the Joneses. And it is a team made up of players called Jones. Now, there's actually, how many points are we talking there? You talk us through it while I add up the points, Chris.
I don't know if I can. We've got Ricky Jade Jones and I've forgotten the guy that plays for Notts County's first name
Jody.
Jody. Thank you. They're all called Jones. Now, it's normally if you forget his first name, you just say their surname, and it sounds like you still know what you're on about. But they're all called Jones. Jody Jones and Ricky Jade Jones as a front two. Between them, with an amazing 77 points so far. Isaiah Jones, and I'm not sure who the other one is in midfield.
Somebody else Jones.
Yep. It's Chris. Lloyd Jones and Alfie Jones as 2 centre-backs, and I believe that's Jamie Jones playing in goal, I think.
So that team bear just those points, so they're obviously without vice captains and all that, even though they're shown on here, is 284 points. So if you assumed that you had captained some of those players, realistically, you could probably say 340. Do we think?
Yeah,
Altogether?
minimum 300. So where would that put us in the Stacey West League if you'd only picked Joneses all season?
88th.
Oh, okay.
You'd still be above. You'd still be above Gibraltar, Charlie. But yeah, 88. There we go. Right. So that was a great bit of fun. Thank you very much for that, Dean. If you've got any teams you would like to send in, please do. So that's been that. It's been a good week for me. It was actually a good week for Chris, but a better week for me. But we are now dead level at 3-3. Chris has blown his load early. He's thrown his double. He's thrown
again.
I said that. Yeah, he's thrown his double captain, his special captain chip on it. Will it work out? If it backfires, that could be a real problem. It's a huge risk. But for now, all that remains to be said is up with Call and I.
Up substandard Liège.